trim that up. So something about these installs is, you know, you shim them at the bottom corners to support the frame. The frames aren't, I'm looking for, you know, this gap in here, about 1/8 inch. They come, the frame is not very tight, so what I try to do is, you'll see me in the video hammering this out to increase that gap down at the bottom. I just give it a few taps to open that gap up, and then I'll shim it in the middle to tighten that gap up. And the shims really need to be, you know, your shims need to be flat a little bit. You can do tapers towards the end, but for the most part building that out, because you want to get that gap, and you can only get that gap from the outside, and you need to really do that before you nail it in, because once you nail those fins in, you can order these without fins. These are Pella architectural series, and I just got the pine finish. I wanted to mimic what was in the house already, but it's got this spoon. You can get this spoon lock hardware. It's kind of a faux spoon lock. There's actually a actual thing that grabs it. Here, let me open this. Okay, that's a little difficult. Okay, so whoops, should have made that a little lower. Anyway, actual spoon lock that grabs it is down here. But I've been pretty happy with them. They've held up well so far. They've got an aluminum skin crimped down on them, and they're, you know, tight. Bulb seal, that's the anchor point. It's holding itself up because it's too low to drop down. Let's see if I can raise it up a little bit. So it will, all right, that doesn't look safe. You can actually pop these down, and then they'll, after you get it 90 degrees, they'll pop out. They've got these lock, and so when you twist that, twist that, it'll lock this guy in right here. It's like a little rotating lock, and it's spring loaded just like any other window. On the outside, go on, twist around. So here I've got it shoved up under this trimmer piece, and then nailed in to all that shimming I did. This metal is so thin, I didn't leave these loose, I just run them in tight. I don't think it'll be a problem with these wood windows. I know, like, I've installed the vinyl windows and they're slotted And I think you're supposed to leave, I don't think you're supposed to run the nails in tight. Probably not supposed to run the nails in tight, but I did on these. I've even done the wood vinyl ones tight. I don't know. It's never been a problem. But these went, all this was pretty well. I tried to make everything level on the inside and the outside, and at the same height for the trimmer boards. Okay, set up there. All right, put this back in. Yeah, they're pretty nice. I wonder about rain getting in this gap, but it hasn't really been a problem. It's this Pella is pretty good with their butyl tape. They love butyl tape. I think there's butyl tape in that joint. Okay. This bed almost flawless. Okay, well, I don't know, must have just missed it. These are double hung. You can, yeah, you take the tops out. They've got latches on the, they'll swing in. Got latches on the top. You can pop these out and they'll swing in, and they're removable too. This was an option to add this wood trim piece here, so this is kind of all you see in the jam. Okay, it's cold today. Let's get this window shut. All right, so what else? That foam gun, I stuck a piece of vinyl tubing in the end of the gun, and that allowed me to get kind of deep inside of the crevice here. Fill these up, fill these gaps up. When I splice these two, most everything I do for framing is when I like joining these two up, I just run 2 screws on 16 inches spacing. Actually, I'll use the structural adhesive in between. Some of them I did, some of them I didn't, just because I forgot. But you know, for the screws I use the deck screws. Use the Torx heads, and they make 2 different styles. The nicer ones will actually they have a shank that's 1.5 inches, and so when the screws engage the other board, it'll slip in this hole and actually suck the 2 together. Otherwise, you got to clamp them or put pressure on them to get them to suck up together. The shimming, you want shims. The required shimming is at the bottom. So when I install this, I get my gap, I frame it all in, so I have gosh, I think they're 1 inch. No, it's 3/8. Yeah, you really don't. You really want 3/4 inch rough opening. So I think these are 31 and a half. These are 31 and a half wide, and then they're 32 and a quarter rough opening, and that'll give you a 3/8 gap. And you really don't want. You really want to shoot for that if you use the fins, because the fins. You know, of course, you're going to have a little offset. They're not going to, it'll give you a little room to play with. You can see over here. This one I think is 40, I think this one's 41 and a half, but it's a little bit wider on one side. I think they're 60. I think they're 60 tall. I can't remember. I think they're 5 feet tall. But once you get it roughed in, then you can, what I like to do is shim it at the bottom to bring it to the height I want. So you'll see the laser line. I'll have a reference horizontal laser line, and I'm measuring from the top down to the laser line to establish the height of the window, and I'm bringing the window up with the lower shims to the height I want it. What I'll do after that is I'll put all the nails in at the bottom from the outside, and then I can come back in and I can take the, whatever they call it, the rack. I'll plumb it up vertical with the shims at the top. And then what I have is I have a vertical you don't need a laser level to do this. I like the laser level because it helps it strikes a line across the room, and then I can make these two the same height. But I used it, I just shot that vertical laser line against one of these edges, and that laser line's probably about a 1/16 or an inch wide, and I'm just trying to eyeball it vertical. And then once I get that, I'll put these shims in at the top, and then I'll start fixing my gaps. I'll just set my gaps at the bottom. Yeah, you can actually see here, to set that gap, this is off the frame just a hair, just to get this gap. That might have been tight from the factory, so I just take a board and just tap it with my hammer to run that out. And this one's the same too. And there's always a little deviation, so I like to keep a little gap here, 1/8 inch, I guess. That I didn't measure it. I just eyeballed these gaps. But once I get the gaps set, I go ahead and put my shims in, and then I want to get this gap set here in the middle. You definitely you shim it at the top, the middle, and the bottom, and the middle. Bring that gap in here. And then once that's set where I want it, then I can go outside and nail the whole thing around. And then it's done. And if you're going to not mold these together, they can give you a mold window at the factory. It's super heavy. You definitely have to have 2 people. I did a window on another building like that, where it was molded together, and it was a big window like these, and it is heavy. You will have to do that with help. But this particular, there's 2x6 header up here, and that's not, 2x6, a double 2x6 is not going to span 5 feet. So That's why I've got the column in the middle made up. But you definitely want these two, these two windows need to be, you want to mind your height. All right. I think that's it. All right, today we're going to install these windows up here. Those old 100-year-old wood windows are in pretty good shape, but unfortunately I'm getting these Pella architectural windows. Now I have to do that one first because it's got a trim line up above that I need to hit. And then from that one, this is one bedroom, these two windows. From that one, I'll measure off of with the laser level to get the other one. What?
Hello.
Okay, there we go. This will give it the trim with the exterior, 3/4 subwall. I'm gonna give it a little more gap at the bottom. Frame's a little tight. Yeah. Okay, next window. This window's in, nice and level. Show you what this looks like. Not very, yeah, kind of rotted out. Got some plywood in there to fix it. Not bad windows, but the cost to repair them by somebody else was the same as the cost to get brand new ones. And personally, I wanted brand new ones. Let's get to work. Whoa, buddy. This is an ant colony. I need some ant spray. Dang. a good window lined up with one another. Ready for foam, ready for trim. What this room gets is a piece of trim board. It goes up across the top. It goes all the way around, so those windows need to be level with one another is the only reason. I mean, if they were off a little bit, otherwise it wouldn't matter. They really need to be close to same height, and they are about 1/16 of an inch. Alright, here's another set of bedroom with another set of windows in it. These I'm actually doing different because this is a double window, and up above is a header beam I installed, but they're double 2x6s, and instead of doing a mold from the factory window, I'm gonna put a column in the middle so I can jack up that header beam, because it's actually about 1/4 inch low. So I'm going to cut boards just a little bit higher, maybe raise it up a little bit. Now before, there was no header beam across here. They just used the window. It's kind of neat, but it's sagged. It's funny how just one 2x4 over 100 years only sagged 3/8 of an inch. I won't be able to pick it up probably much, but this is how I'm going to do it. I'll build a column out of two 2x4s and screw them together on 16-inch centers. It's a lot easier with a bottle jack. Oh, where's she going? Then where's she gonna be at? up with this foam, and you've got to shake it for a minute. And I use one of these guns to shoot it. I need to find, there's actually a tip that goes on this. I need to find it because I would like to get deeper than that. But that's pretty good. That's definitely gonna. I like to fill up the cavity. Keep things from getting inside and gives you a little bit better R value, I think. Alright, let's see if I can find that tip. Oh, and cleanup's always easy. Sell this gun cleaner with a sprayable tip, like acetone. Just hit it, clean it off, and this stuff will be good till next time as long as you keep it above freezing. Here's a closer look of the final install. That windows and doors foam doesn't expand at all, and once it cures, it's pretty stiff. Down here, I just filled that gap with some foam. The whole house has been spray foam insulated, top to bottom. I'll probably stuff, since this is just the can foam, I'll probably stuff a little fiberglass in there before I sheetrock it and finish it up.